And it's fascinating that women's brains actually physiologically work more diversely than men. Some women tend to have a lot of things going on in their brains and a lot of things in the air at once. So that's another reason, by the way, that I've got in the book that women are superior to men, is that they can multitask, so to speak. But it's actually not multitasking. It's actually something more magical and more interesting than that.
I'm Rachel, and you're listening to the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Shag Rag. I am really excited to share this company with you all. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. As you know, I love to support women-owned businesses, and Shag Rag is a women-owned business in Santa Cruz, California. They have the cutest designs of moisture-proof blankets. You've heard me talk about these before on many episodes, so I'm finally excited to be able to share a discount code with you all to go ahead and grab yours. This is designed to protect your sheets from the wetness that is created during sex. So if you are interested in having some sex while on your period, or you're a squirter, or just in general, those fluids that generally come up when we are having sex and having fun, this is designed to keep your bedding dry and comfortable. Also, for those of you that I hope are using lube with every sexual experience, this blanket is going to protect your sheets from any lube, oil-based, anything like that as well. Again, made in the US, it is eco-friendly, water-based, inks, and I'm so excited. They sent me the cutest one, the peach. It says "Eat Me and Bite Me" on it with cute little peaches. I love it. There is, again, a ton of cute patterns. So go to their website. It's Shag Rag. It's SHAGRAGG.com. We'll make sure to get the link here in the bio for you. And you can use code wellness10 at checkout, and that is going to save you 10% on your purchase. So again, that is wellness10, and you're going to go to shagrag.com. Let me know how you love this, and I am so excited for you to get your first moisture-proof blanket. Hey, y'all. Welcome back for another episode of Owning Your Sexual Self. You might be wondering, is this a guy? Like, does Rachel really have a guy on her podcast right now? And the answer is yes. It's not often that I have men come on as podcast guests. Of course, I've had Danny on the show before several times. And who else? Oh, Cam Fraser, of course, another fellow Australian, talking about the myths of men's sexuality. So check that one out. And then I got this email from Dr. Ricky, who's our guest today. And, when it says he has a book, Why Women are More Superior Than Men, or Why Women Are Superior to Men, I'm like, yeah, I'm here for it. I'm here for that conversation, especially with a man, right? So we are getting both perspectives in this episode today. So I am super excited. We're going to be just chatting about positive views on men, women, marriage, sexuality, and relationships, constructive approaches to love and sexuality, how to solve some conflict, and bringing back the fun and humor in your relationship, and a little bit about Dr. Ricky. So as I said, he is from Australia. It sounds like Perth, as I'm waiting for him to hop on here. And he is an endocrinologist. He's a geriatrician and the head of a Royal Perth hospital. He is an award-winning medical leader, works in geriatrics, husband of 20 years. Okay, must be doing something right. Husband of 20 years and a father of 4. Holy hell. That is a lot to have on one person's plate. And also freelance comedian. So I'm assuming that we're going to get some comedy out of today's episode. Anyways, I'm excited to have on Dr. Ricky Arenson today to chat about these things with you guys. Make sure to check out his book if that is interesting to you. It is called Women Are Superior to Men. Don't let me mess up this title. Women Are Superior to Men is the name of his book. So I'm excited. Stay tuned, keep listening, and keep owning your sexual self. All right, Dr. Ricky, all the way from Perth, Australia. Thank you so much. 11:30 p.m. your time right now. Thank you for, again, making the sacrifice to stay up late to record with me today.
It's a pleasure and a privilege to join you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said in the intro, when emails, I get emails all the time, right, from people that are wanting to come on the podcast, and it's very rare that I actually have men on the show. But when that subject came through of like women being superior to men, I was like, okay, I would love to have this conversation, especially with a man, so that we can get both perspectives. And you being somebody that is high up in healthcare and a leader in the medical field, and it sounds like a comedian too. I'm excited to see where this conversation goes.
I struggle to be a comedian at 11:30, but I'll do my best.
Yes, I can imagine. So why this book? Like, what, tell us a little bit about your story, your journey, and how this book even came about for you.
That's quite a long story. I'll try and make it brief and keep it interesting. Um, I've ascended rather unexpectedly through medicine. I mean, my mother was kind of the only person who thought I was good at anything growing up. I certainly didn't expect to become any sort of ascend in medicine and become a director of a hospital and a head of department, and all the things that have happened have surprised me. Um, and as that's happened, as I've grown more in medicine and learned more, the thing that's really struck me is that doctors aren't always very good at relationships and managing people. And that's because medical school trains you to look after people with diseases, and there's a huge amount to learn about people being ill and what can be wrong with them and all the treatments. But you don't learn enough about people. And what you do in medicine is you manage people in distress, emotional people. And that's something which I came to understand doctors aren't all very good at.
Mm.
So I started to learn within leadership training about people, studying relationships, studying what makes people good at managing people. And I don't believe there's any difference between managing people, whether you're a husband managing your wife, or you're a teacher managing kids in the classroom, you're a parent, or you're a doctor managing patients, or you're in business. It's all about understanding what makes people feel valued and understood, and connecting with them and knowing what works and what doesn't. So when I started to do that, I started to actually teach other doctors. And I started courses on training doctors to be better at managing teams and people. And it became quite popular in my hospital and in my state. And one day my wife decided to come along. She's also a doctor, and she was very disparaging of my abilities. She said to me, "I'm sure I'll be very bored and I'll learn nothing." That was her exact line. "I'm sure I'll be very bored and learn nothing, but I want to get the professional development points and get a half day leave to come to your course." So she came to my course, and there were about 50 specialists on the course. And then as we left, she said to me, "Wow, that was amazing. Everyone loved what you had to say. You have to write a book." And I was really taken aback because I'd never thought that I had anything to contribute to write a book or anything like that. So, but she must be obeyed. She literally commanded me to do it. So I said, okay, I better do what she says, like usual. So I started writing a lot about relationships and conflict avoidance and managing people. And I wrote huge volumes and volumes of work. And then one night I was sitting in the hospital in an office, and there were a group of nurses chatting, and they were getting quite angry. And the one nurse got off the phone and she said, "Why do I have to ring my husband during dinner every night to tell him to feed the kids? Doesn't he know that after having kids for 10 years?" And the next nurse said, "Yeah, I just got off the phone from my husband telling to bath the kids. Like, how does he not get this?" And the other nurse goes, "Well, having a husband's like having an extra child." So I was just laughing in the background, and I said, "You're all getting this wrong. You're just expecting too much. Don't you know that women are superior to men?" And
Mm.
they all turned to me and went, "Wow, that's amazing. You
Yeah.
should write a book." And I
Eh,
went, "Oh, okay." So then I kind of started writing a lot about that. And I think one of the guiding interests that I was always fascinated by, we all think we're so unique and special. I'm sure you are. I'm not. I'm like everyone else. And when I got married, I found everyone was fighting about the same things. You went and had coffee with your friends, and all the men were complaining about the same things about their wives. The wives were complaining about the same things about their husbands. And I went, we're not unique. Most of us fight about the same things. So that kind of inspired me to look at all of that in the book. And I have to, sorry, this is a very long answer, but I also really wanted to laugh and be positive and joke about the fact that, I am a man and I've got lots of flaws and I'm pretty useless at a lot of stuff. And I think that's one thing that wives do amazingly well. They take these useless 20-year-olds who sort of bounce around drinking beer and making bad jokes and rude jokes, and they kind of turn them into a father and a husband. And 10, 20 years later, most men kind of have learned to be a good husband in a lot of cases. So I wanted to put something positive in the space because there's been so much negativity about gender and about relationships. Everyone's so depressed. And I was like, hey, no, my wife's amazing and my mother was amazing. And I want to talk to people about these things and make everyone a bit happier.
Mm. What a great story. You had all these signs coming to you from people close to you, but also people that, again, like those nurses and stuff, maybe you didn't have such a close relationship with, but it was, I
I
feel.
didn't tell my wife if I did, put it that way.
Oh, okay. But the universe was like, you need to do this. You need to write this thing. And so how long has your book been out now?
Well, it came out in about late July.
Oh, okay. So almost a year then. So pretty fresh. Awesome.
It's so interesting, I think one of the things that none of us appreciate about life, we see people being successful. And I've always thought you don't see the backstory to that. You always just see the person who emerges, they sell 1 million books and they're amazing. And you don't realize the slog that it takes to get there. So I found with writing, you think you're getting somewhere, and then it's like a manuscript, and then your editor goes, "It's useless. It's
Oh,
useless. You've got to start again." And then months later, you think you got somewhere, and they go, "It's still useless." And then to find an agent and to get a publisher, and then once you've done all that, you think, "I've made it. Oh, I'm an author," and then you have to start doing PR and trying to publicize your book, and a year or two later you're still just starting. And
mhm.
so I think that's a really good message for life, that marriage, friendship, writing a book, anything that you're doing, it's just a lot of hard work and you've got to do it yourself. And if you want to be successful, that's what it takes.
Mhm.
Nothing's easy.
Yeah.
Nothing worthwhile is easy.
Yeah, absolutely. If it was, everybody would do it, right? And especially when it comes to relationships too, I feel that, and I have this conversation with clients often, it feels like we're striving to get to the quote unquote perfect marriage or the perfect relationship, but the one thing that we can count on in life is change. And so even if we're striving to get to this area where we think, okay, finally we made it, you're going to change. You're going to change. Your partner's going to change. And so it's this constant work. And I'm sure you agree, being married for 20 years with 4 kids, you're constantly working at this to make things work and to keep the happiness and to keep, sexually speaking, keeping the spark alive.
I couldn't agree more. And that's actually something I talk about in my book, that the most evidence-based model to make anything work, any endeavor, is hard work and investment. And so, for example, if you look at financial success, the average millionaire in the world, and that's been very carefully studied, so they actually study millionaires, how did they get there? It takes the average millionaire 32 years of hard work to become a millionaire. That's the average in the world, well, in one big study. So, with marriage, it's, maybe takes you 30 years to get to the point where you kind of know what you're doing, and then everything changes and the world's full of change. But yes, absolutely, it's all about hard work and commitment. And that's one of the challenges, I think, for our younger generations, where everything in the world's been very easy for people, and you have a phone, and if you don't like an opinion, you just scroll past it, and everything's at the touch of a button. I mean, it's extraordinary. I was thinking about buying music when I was a kid.
Mhm.
If a new CD came out or a new record, you used to have to wait and have it on order, and then I'd cycle all the way to the shop and buy it, and then you'd unwrap it, and then you couldn't, on old records, you couldn't change songs, so you just had to listen to the whole thing, even the songs you didn't like. And now, of course, with Apple or Spotify, you just press one tap of your finger, you get any song in the world. So you think about how that changes philosophy, and I think that's a challenge for relationships, because people aren't used to working hard, and they're not used to pushback and managing other people's opinions. And I can tell you, if you get married to a woman, she's going to have some opinions and they're not going to be the same as yours. So you better get used to that, learn to handle it.
Yeah. And not just giving into the woman either, right? Like standing firm in your masculine, if you are a man that's married to a woman, but standing firm in your masculine, because I think that's a mistake that often I hear from men that are a little bit more on the passive side. It's like they're just, whatever she says goes, like she is the ruler of all things. And from the women that I work with, it's like what I hear from them, and it's really hard for them to get to this point to be like, no, what I actually want is for my man to stand up and take action. Like, yes, I maybe come across like controlling or overbearing or whatever, and I'm always the one that's taking care of the things, but my God, like if he would just do, this, if he would just be the ones to wake up first and like help with the kids or feed the dogs or
Yeah,
those
absolutely.
things.
I think that's a fascinating comment, because I don't think that, I mean, one of the frustrations I find that a lot of women express to me, my wife was actually just playing me a video of this tonight, is that they want husbands to stand up and be counted as a mature partner.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is having opinions and showing initiative, and even around the house. Women, I think, I don't want to make this sound sexist, but I think a talent that many wives have by socialization, design, or evolution is that they are incredibly good at making houses tick in certain ways that men often sit back and are much more passive. So my wife was just complaining to me earlier. She played me this video of this woman complaining about her husband going, "Ah, you could just be nice to me." And the wife goes, "Be nice to you. I was very nice to you last night. And then when I got up this morning, I made breakfast for everyone and I did the laundry and I cleaned everything up while you were just lying around. And, now you arrive downstairs and go, 'Oh, you're not being nice to me.'" So I
Mm-hmm.
think women do, on average, want husbands to actually do something and be something. And another interesting aspect of that is traditionally what we're designed to do by nature is protect our families. I mean, that's pretty much what I say to my wife. You're like, don't expect me to be smart, but if you want me to, smash something with a mallet or pick up something heavy, I'm good for that kind of stuff. So we are designed to protect our families. And so women actually instinctively, many women find that masculine aspect of feeling safe with a man very comforting and very attractive. And so if you have a man who's too passive, I don't know that all women find that attractive. They like, you know, men who are a bit strong and actually can stand up for themselves
Yeah. You might
at
think,
the right time, at the
yeah,
right
exactly.
time.
I was gonna say you might think that you like that passiveness because they're always on your side, right? They're always doing what you want to do. You're always right. But we deserve to have that pushback. And yeah, again, like you said, like having men stand up and have a say and having that, audacity and ambition is really huge for partnerships. And of course, like we said, not to make it sexist or gender specified, but I think, yeah, when we're speaking specifically to the masculine, those are important qualities.
Well, I think women want to respect their husbands as well. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we all want to respect each other. And if you marry someone who just has no, you know, who's just weak and passive, it's not a personality that everyone's going to respect. And it's actually a little bit boring as well, because you want to bounce things off each other and you want to fight a little bit because that keeps you interested and excited. And if someone just says yes to every question, it's not really very exciting.
Mm-hmm. Two books that I'm thinking of that when I work with male clients, a lot of times come up in conversation. And especially if you're listening to this and you're a man and you're relating to this conversation so far, or you're a woman and you have a man that you think could benefit from this. The Way of the Superior Man is a great book recommendation for men. And also No More Mr. Nice Guy would be my top two favorite. The masculine in relationships would be my third, but those three for men specifically, I love that. And it's very much falls in line with this conversation that we're having right now.
I think I'd add to that something really interesting. I think there is something to be said for knowing when to keep quiet. And that's also something I talk about in my book, is that when someone's actually really angry, it's often worthwhile to let them blow off some steam. They might be having a bad day. They might be miserable about something. And engaging at that time is often the wrong time to engage. So I think with fights, timing is such an important thing. And I often allow my wife to blow off steam and I just sit quietly and let her do it.
Mm.
And then at a more opportune time, I'm going to take her aside and say, "Hey, that wasn't great. And I think we need to talk about that and work out how we manage this better." And if the person's calmed down, they're not so emotional, and they actually realize, "Hey, I want to engage," that's a better time to do it. And I always teach my kids that. I say, you see me being quiet sometimes when they know sometimes I'm in the right and they can see that, and I say to them, it takes more strength sometimes to just be quiet and not have your say,
Mm-hmm.
because you know that if you say something, it's going to make things a whole lot worse. Rather be outcome driven, and you want to make things right. You want to get things right with your partner. And sometimes that means being quiet and not fighting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point to make for sure. Silence, such a beautiful thing. And so I would love to dive into, one of the main reasons we're coming on. So again, your book, Women Are Superior to Men, and you talk about 8 different reasons why women are superior to men. So can we dive into some of those at this point? And maybe we've already covered some, but
Okay, well, I must say that chapter in my book is a mixture of things that are tongue in cheek and things that are serious. So one of them was that men can't find things in cupboards.
yeah.
And I'm sure most women around the world have had the experience of sending their husband to get to the fridge to get something, and he shouts out, "Honey, it's not here." And the wife is getting more and more upset. And he goes, "You didn't buy it." And she goes over to the fridge and finds it in 1 second. Go, it's right here. How can you not see this in front of your eyes? So that's something I talk about in my book, about why that's actually the case physiologically, why men struggle to actually see things. And one of the reasons for that is men have brains that are very unifocused, and they tend to have a very clear image in their minds of exactly what they're looking for. And if that's not what they see, if it's a different color or a different packaging, they don't see it. Um, and it's fascinating that women's brains actually physiologically work more diversity than men. So women tend to have a lot of things going on in their brains and a lot of things in the air at once. So that's another reason, by the way, that I've got in the book that women are superior to men, is that they can multitask, so to speak. But it's actually not multitasking. It's actually something more magical and more interesting than that. Because in truth, no one can really multitask as such. So you can't simultaneously do 5 mathematical problems at once. But women seem to have the sense of time and space that is, they're able to keep all these balls in the air at once, and they know where each one is and what's going on. So they can run a Zoom meeting at the same time, cooking dinner at the same time. They know where all the kids are, what they're up to, what time someone needs to be fetched from ballet. Whereas men tend to, once they on their phone, typing an email to their secretary, that's it. You're not going to get a meaningful comment other than a grunt. And basically, you've got no hope of getting their attention, which is, why many wives traditionally get upset when their husbands say, "Hey, I can text and talk to you at the same time. No, I am listening to you. No, you're not. Put down your phone."
Mm-hmm.
So my wife has been known, by the way, to be quite, she actually pulls the phone down, and my kids always laugh and like, "I'm sorry. No, you're right," because I do get very distracted. So I think that's one of the amazing things about women is this ability to have all these balls in the air and to manage so many things in such an amazingly beautiful way. But if I was to say one thing about women that I think is the most magical of all, and it's something I fear is actually being lost in politics. We've got so excited about gender politics that we've lost something which is just true. It's just a biological truth. And that is that women are fundamentally designed to have babies, nurture them, and nurture young families. Human survival depends absolutely on that. There's no escaping that biological fact.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about judging people who trans or anything like that. But in the genetic sense, women are designed to do that. Doesn't mean they can't be prime ministers and CEOs, which is also fantastic. And I personally think it's amazing when, my wife's a medical inventor and a doctor. So I'm very keen on that. But women are fundamentally designed to fall pregnant, breastfeed, and take care of infants for human survival. Remembering, of course, that 100 years ago, we didn't have formula that men could sit and feed a baby in a chair out of a bottle. And, we didn't have all this technology and contraception and all these things. It was a very different world. And so we've had many millennia of humans evolving this way. And that is the thing that makes women most magical, is this ability, I think, to nurture the best out of other people, which can sometimes actually be costly to women. I think it often results in women staying in relationships they should really leave because they're so intent on nurturing and making someone, bringing the best out of people. But most of us have a mother. And there's no denying that most people in the world think their mothers are awesome. They're just amazing people. And wives, I'm thankful every day that I'm married to a wife and not a husband. So I think that without going into all the reasons about men and women, I think if there's one thing that we can all appreciate, it's just that wives and mothers, on average, are just quite amazing, and we're very lucky to have them.
Yes. very beautifully said. And as you said, yeah, the women were wired to have more of that nurturing capacity. And so that, as you said, fundamentally makes sense why we can find the things, why we know where the kids are at all times, or whatever, what time it is, where we need to be next. And I wanted to point out too, when what you said with men, so how men are very just one track minded. This comes up in my conversations a lot around sexuality. Men are very one track minded versus women. We don't compartmentalize as well. And so when it comes down to then having sex, men, you're very focused, right? Like, okay, this is a thing, this is what we're doing. And women, they're thinking, about the laundry that needs to be switched over, what they're going to make for dinner, where the kids are, or is the door locked, all these different things. And those things just simply aren't on the man's mind. And so when it's harder for women to kind of get in the mood and focus at what's happening, the men are often then confused, like, why, like, I'm touching you where, here, I'm kissing you here, like, why is this not registering, why is this not working? And yeah, it can be quite frustrating for a lot of couples when this happens.
Well, I think it's quite frustrating to many women that their husbands and men in general think about pretty much nothing but sex most of the time, and they kind of hope that they could induce some kind of intelligent thought in male minds. But on what you say, I mean, I'm not a woman, and I can only say from what women have said to me, I think it's fascinating. I think if people, there's times in life where people are young and passionate, and it's a different kind of sexuality to two people who've been married for 5 or 10 years. Things do change, as you said earlier. But I understand from women that for many of them, sexuality is actually something that takes effort in many ways. For men, turn up naked, yay, that's it, great. Mind's already on it. Can't think of anything else. Wish I could think of something else. Not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But for women, it's about getting into the right mindset, about thinking about things, about getting turned on. And all of those things seem to take a lot more effort and focus. And that really comes down also to men, because men need to understand that then, and they need to put in a lot more work to ensure that their partner is in the right mental space. And a lot of that isn't just about the sexual act itself. A lot of that is about, if you are incredibly intimate, close, and your relationship is fantastic, you're making time to spend together, and you're putting a huge amount of care into your partner, that's going to put both of you more in the mood, just that closeness and that connection. And I think that's where many couples lose their way sexually and otherwise. I was interestingly in Australia, I'm sure it's worldwide, but there was a recent survey that showed that the number one cause of divorce in Australia is that one partner just doesn't feel they're getting enough attention. So I think that's a fantastic statement for sexuality and love.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And I mean, common here is sex and money. Sex, money, and kids are the top three reasons of divorce here. But I think all three of those things can come back to what you just said about the not getting enough attention. Is that's probably really the root of those three things, right? Not having attention on the intimacy, the conversations around money, and lacking attention if there are kids where you're feeling like you have to split your attention where that's going. You have some suggestions though for people specifically that have kids to be able to have better sex or more frequent sex even when kids are home. Can you touch on those a bit with us?
Absolutely, yes. I think one of the mistakes I find that modern couples make when I mean, it's something which I hear so often, is they start to talk about not having time for things that are important because they have kids. Mm-hmm. And we've almost moved into a mindset in the modern day that having kids is like a punishment, or like, it's this overwhelming experience. But, there's 8 billion people in the world. There's a lot of people out there having kids, and they have been for a long time. And it's actually a natural part of life. And so I feel very sort of upset when I hear couples saying, oh, we can't have sex. We don't have time for each other. We don't have time for the things we need to do because it's just so hectic. The kids. Mm-hmm. And the reality is that, your kids depend on your marriage. And if you allow your marriage to erode, it has a profound effect on your whole family. And if the kids see that their parents no longer love each other, if the love breaks down, people start fighting, that has a huge impact on the whole family. So I think what's incredibly important is for married couples to keep making time for each other. And that's not just time for sex. It's time to have close conversations about emotions and shared feelings. It's about spending time with intimacy. It's about making time for sex. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very, very, one of the very powerful things which I do tell people is you've got to keep investing. You've got to invest time and effort or things die out. You're not going to you can't have a good sex life if you never have sex, put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And
how did I come up with that? That's brilliant. No,
I
I'm
know,
just joking.
but that's for the next book. And honestly, when I'm working with people, and to kind of tap on what you were just saying, when I work with people, one of the first things that I take them through is what I call the sex timeline. And so this is having them look back at basically their childhood, their experiences. How was their relationship with their parents specifically, or how was their parents relationship specifically, is one of the things that we cover. And I was just having this conversation with another podcast guest recently, and she was talking about how these cues, these things that you see, how your parents interacted in terms of love or sex or relationships dynamics, you subconsciously are storing beliefs on what then love and relationships should look like. So if you saw your parents fighting, right? If your dad was like really hot and cold, then you're likely now in your adult life attracting partners that are also hot and cold, because that subconsciously, that's what love is to you. That's what you learned that love is. So to what you're saying, with people right now that have kids, I think you're exactly right in saying that you are the primary role models for your children. You have the priority to be able to show them what healthy love looks like, holding hands, even kissing. I don't think there's anything wrong with your kids seeing you kiss. Now, of course, I want to say go start banging in front of your kids, but there's things that are going to be healthy and appropriate for your kids to see. Hearing you exchange I love yous and sharing positive affirmations, or hearing, a husband tell their wife, your mom, dad tell your mom how beautiful she looks, or how great, she looks in the outfit, or appreciating the things that she's doing. And same for women, like, look how handsome, you look, and things like that. So I think those things are so, so important. And
I
often,
couldn't agree more. Yeah, I totally agree. I think I actually had a friend at school, and it was very tragic, actually. He came to me when he was about 14, and he said to me, I don't think my parents ever loved each other. I can't remember them ever showing affection, and I can't remember ever seeing a sign that they actually loved each other. And he ended up coming to my house all the time, to hang out with my family. He was kind of like an adopted member of the family, because in my house there was a lot of expressed affection. So that was something which he was completely missing at home. And even with us, with my kids, they actually get pretty excited when my wife and I give each other a hug or a kiss. Nothing, don't worry, nothing explicit, but they actually go, oh, it's so nice to see that. Like, they like it. So I totally agree with you. I think it's very encouraging to them, because they instinctively know that how important it is for their parents to love each other and stay together.
Yeah. And I think extending that even to, a lot of times I hear from parents that they feel guilt going out, like leaving the kids at home or leaving the kids with a sitter to go out for a date night. And yeah, all the same reasons that we just been saying. I think that is equally as important, that your kids are seeing that you are going out and spending time with each other without them, essentially, because really adults, we need that non-kid time.
And I think that even goes to another dimension, which is more difficult. And that is, unfortunately, humans are opportunists, and children are opportunists because they're human.
Mm.
And so if parents allow children to dominate that space, children will do it. And I've seen a lot of relationships where kids will not allow their parents to be close.
Mm.
And if the parents want to go out on date night, the kids kick up a fuss and scream and shout. And then the parents don't go out because they're like, oh, we send the babysitter home because it's so, the kids are just crying. They're so upset. They're not crying and upset. They're manipulating you because they are opportunists. And so every time the husband and wife come together, you actually will see this, where kids will come and actually push the partner away. And I think that's uh, a really bad precedent to allow in a relationship. And it won't upset the children at all if the parents say, no, I'm giving dad a hug now. It's not your time. This is dad's time. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's good for the kids. And they'll do it twice. And after that, they'll actually be quite happy about it. So totally agree again with you.
Yeah.
Are we going to disagree on anything? We'll have to
I
disagree on
don't
something.
know. This is how you make a good guest, when you agree with no, not always. I've definitely had people, bring opposing views in mine, and I've learned definitely things from other people. So this is great. And as we're wrapping up, I just want to make sure that we covered all of the things that we were hoping to. Let's see, I see the mysterious empty box that men retreat to as one of your talking points here. Is that I feel like we may have already covered that with the one-track mindedness, but is there more to add to this?
I think it's really interesting that men compartmentalize everything in their minds, and they have, specific boxes they go to, so to speak, in their minds. The one box is sex, and they spend a lot of time in that box. And when they're in that box, there's nothing outside that box to see. Um, but they also, there's this idea of men going to an empty box, and men go fishing and they just stare into space for hours. And there's not much going on in their brains during that time. And you could say the same about ball games. They around the world, wherever you go in the world, there are men sitting watching ball games. And it's not that women don't watch sport. It's just that when women watch sport, I suspect there's more going on in their brains at the time. They're still thinking a little bit about the laundry and the kids and when they need to be fetched from school. So, but the men are just like in the ball game, swearing at the screen and the ref, and So I think one of the problems with the empty box is it does cause conflict in relationships, because many men, when they're distressed, they retreat into the sort of empty box. And I can't help but wonder also whether that's why men have higher suicide rates, because women have much more of an instinct to connect, which is a more healthy coping mechanism for distress when you connect with other human beings, than to retreat. And it causes a lot of nagging. And that's a negative dynamic, because men are distressed and it may be about their relationship, but it actually may be about work or something else. So they withdraw and they go to this empty box where they're kind of just in their own space. And then their wives feel personally aggrieved about that, because they feel, hey, my partner's not giving me attention and I feel neglected. So they go and try and push themselves into that space. And then the partner, the male partner, who's actually trying to retreat because they're feeling distressed and they want to be in this safe space, they push their partner away. And that creates more and more conflict. So I think sometimes there is something to be said for wives being understanding of the fact that men do sometimes have this space that they need to be in. And it's actually quite healthy for men if they're going to just, if the worst they do is sit and watch a ball game and, swear at the screen, do not go and stand in front of them and say, it's just a ball game. Why do you care? Let's talk about the color, the curtains we're going to buy. That's never going to turn out well. But I think also just handling that sensitively, that when they're in that safe space, there are different ways to approach them. And there certainly are ways that you can bring a man out of his shell in that circumstance, if that's their coping mechanism. It just takes a little bit more attention than just sort of trying to shove your way into that space and say, hey, you're not giving me enough attention now.
Yeah, there's a time and a place. Wow. Well, this has been so good. You obviously have very, very good things to say, and I'm really excited for listeners to grab your book. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Where is it available? Where do you prefer for us to purchase? Is there any websites, any social media information that you'd like to share for people to find you?
So Amazon.com is where to get the book. And I've got a website, drrickyarenson.com. And I'd welcome anyone to get in touch with me, chat to me. I'm very keen to connect with people. And I've really thoroughly enjoyed chatting to you. It's been really lovely.
Yes, same. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been a great conversation. And I know it's getting late there. We're hitting the midnight hour for you. So we can wrap up again. It was wonderful having you on as a guest. And I'm excited to also get your book and gracefully slip it to my husband as well to read, because
I've had quite a few wives that have prescribed it to their husband, and that makes me really excited. So thank you.
Absolutely. Good. The good news is he's married to me. We're always having conversations like this, so he knows it's out of the growth mindset, as if you will. So
well, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks again. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. If you loved it, be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And if you really fucking loved it, make sure to tag me on social media at @TheRachelMain. I'll see you next week.